Hi, I'm Adam and I'm back after a little summer break. But in today's video, I want to share with you 7 ideas to keep your photography feeling fresh and exciting. Before we get into it today though, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you need a domain name, a website, or an online store, then make your next move with Squarespace. Whilst photography is exciting and rewarding, it can also be really difficult. So it's far too easy to lose your enthusiasm and get stuck in a rut. This is especially the case with landscape photography, where we also have to contend with finding interesting locations and traveling there and dealing with the weather. If you have ever felt like this though, it's totally natural. But rather than down tools for good, I wanted to give you some ideas to get your creative juices flowing. Number 1 is nighttime photography. Now there's lots we can still photograph at night, but I'm not really talking about astrophotography or shooting the stars of the Milky Way. What I'm talking about is much more controllable, because when we're doing nighttime photography, we don't need to worry about the light. We don't even necessarily need to worry about the weather. And if you are struggling for locations, shooting locations that you are familiar with at night will produce some very different looking images. This is something I've been doing recently with the video that I made about light painting with a drone. And this is my project over the next, couple of years probably. And it's just an exciting way to start getting some different looking landscapes. You don't need a drone though. You can just do it with a torch and start light painting things. You could use flashes to get different angles of the light as well. And it can turn those locations that you know very well into something really interesting. To give you an idea, and again, to get some thoughts going in your mind, I suggest you check out the work of Joe Cornish. He has done just a fantastic exhibition of Brimham rocks, and quite a few of the images include light painting, and it gives you a really good idea of what can be achieved. If you are in the Yorkshire area, go and visit the exhibition. I also did a video for him which is there as well that shows off and sort of describes Joe's work. Fantastic, it's must see, but light painting is really exciting, and you don't really need any extra gear other than a tripod, a torch, and your camera. Number 2 is ICM, or intentional camera movement. This is where we take our camera, open the shutter up, and then just move the camera a little bit, and it creates these beautiful, ethereal, kind of painterly images that just look really, really artistic if they are executed well. But I just wanted to give you a couple of little tips that help me when I'm doing my ICM work, which I honestly don't do very often at all. Part of the reason is because I don't really like the randomness of it. I like to be in control of my gear. I like to have that sort of artistic vision in my mind and then execute on that. And with ICM, often we give it a little flick and it's just totally random. So what I do is I will attach a 6-stop filter to the front of my camera. What that means is that I can then up the shutter speed to around 5 or 6 seconds. And it's about the movement rather than the speed. So I can slow the shutter down to that speed and then just get a much slower exposure and a much more controlled movement with the camera. And that's just the way I like to do it. Rather than giving it a random flick, you can be much more targeted with your movement as the camera is exposing. So 5 seconds like that, or a twist, and you just be much more controlled over the movement of your camera. If you are interested in ICM, and if you just are wondering or wanting some ideas, I really suggest you check out the work of Charlotte Bellamy. She has just got these beautiful ICM images in lots of different locations, different ideas, really artistic, really beautiful, and well worth checking out. Right, number 3 is to shoot in bad weather. Not that I think that exists, but I find that a lot of people, as they pile into landscape photography, often will have really unrealistic expectations about the weather and the shots they're going to capture, because we see these beautiful sunsets and these images that just have perfect conditions. But the reality of it is that that doesn't happen all the time, and you have to be out at sunrise or sunset. But there are fantastic images to be captured, particularly in the middle of the day when the weather is less than perfect. So when I look around this room at the images I've got on my wall, a lot of them are shot during the day, during cloudy or weather where it might be considered bad light. It expands your kind of skill set to get good images in those conditions. It also becomes an adventure if we are trying to brave the weather. And if you come away from one of those trips having been through it with the weather and you get a good image, it just, for me, becomes all the more satisfying. Anyway, if you go out in things like snow, again, it's more of a challenge, but those images are just so fantastic and so beautiful. So I really encourage you to go out in different weather, because even in the rain, you can get some really great shots. Just make sure you have the right gear to keep you warm and dry, particularly your feet. Right, so this is a little bonus one, because another good way to get yourself out of a rut is to collate or look at your old work, because you'll often see how much better you've got over the weeks, the months, or the years. And once you've done that, a great thing to do is to share them or put them on a website. And if you are looking for a website, as you know, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. And they, in my mind, are just the best place for photographers to place their website. Partly because it's just so easy to do. You can register your domain name. You can just drag and drop a few blocks onto your Squarespace website, and then using their templates, you're going to have something really beautiful really quickly. Once you put your images on there and a little bit of text, it's then going to look unique and beautiful, and you're going to be really happy with it. You can then, if you want to, upgrade that website to start selling things like prints or workshops or anything else that you want to sell. Basically, it's just as easy as doing anything else on there. They've got great customer service. So go to squarespace.com to start your free trial today. And then if you like what you've put together, use the offer code FIRSTMAN to get 10% off your first purchase. So I have a friend who I go out doing photography with a lot and sort of give each other friendly critique. And he is a big fan of my work, but he gets much more excited every time I send him a time lapse, because he just describes it as kind of the photograph coming to life. And in a world where video content is becoming more and more in demand, time lapse is a great way for photographers to do video content, because you don't need to do any video editing. You can do it all in Lightroom and Photoshop, and they just create these fantastic, exciting things that have that immediate wow factor. It's quite straightforward, because nearly all cameras these days have an interval timer built in, so you don't need a separate clicker. Go onto the interval timer, and then I like to use a 3-second interval. That works really well. And then I do about 200 frames. I'm working at 25 frames a second most of the time, so that will then give me a time lapse of about 8 seconds, and it really doesn't need to be any longer than that. But what I do is I take those 200 images, load them into Lightroom, and then I'll just edit one image to make it look like I want to, crop it down to 16:9 because we're creating video content. Then I just copy all of those settings to all the other images. I then burn the JPEGs off and I open them up in Photoshop. And you just open the first file and then you click open as sequence. That will then, and you click open, and that Photoshop then just opens that sequence of images, but it will just show you the one. Then I just go to export and render video. I do it as 4K because you've got the resolution there. Export the video, And then you've got that nice little video file ready to share. You can also do it by filming video for say 10 minutes and then squashing it down to that 8 seconds. But I prefer using the still image method because that then gives you the full raw control over the final look. So next one is probably the best tip to get you out of that photographic rut, and that is to change genres that you're shooting. We naturally, after a while of doing photography, will fall into a particular genre because that's what we're interested in. I'm a landscape photographer, but I still shoot portraits and I do various other things. So why not try something like macro photography? I've done a lot of this in the past. There's a lot of stuff on the Raw Room if you want to sign up for that, where there is a masterclass of macro photography where you can just find everyday items and make them look really cool and interesting. I also have the water drop photography masterclass on there, which just create these water drop images that this channel was essentially built on. So getting that macro lens on there or getting those little macro attachments to your standard lenses will give you just new creative opportunities and the opportunities are endless in that small world. So just switching up genres can keep those creative juices flowing. And I've said many times before, if you are a landscape photographer, for example, and you start doing portrait and macro photography for a while, it will make you a better landscape photographer because photography is really all the same. It's about capturing the light with that camera and the skills transfer from one thing to another. Right, the next one, the risk of sounding like a broken record is to print your work. When you print out your work, it becomes clear that you are doing art. You get that thing in your hand and it's just ultra satisfying seeing your work come to life like that. I've talked about printing so much on this channel. There's so many videos. You can see the prints on the wall. I made a video recently about my book that you can see there. That's another great way to print your work. If you want to buy my book and support the channel, go down to the link down below, hit that and check it out. And there's stories in there from when I was a police officer and how that fed into my photography. Feedback has been amazing. So yeah, please do check that out. But by printing your work and even thinking about printing your work whilst you are taking the photograph will slow us down, make us more creative and make artists out of us essentially. So yeah, print, whether you do it yourself or order from a lab, it's up to you, but I really, really recommend giving it a try. And even if you haven't got any new shots, you will be excited about your photography again if you take the images you've already got and print them out. And you'll inspire yourself to start making new images again. Right, another one, and this is a really important one as well because the photography world can get very negative, very competitive, and not very pleasant at times. So it's really, really important to appreciate the work of other photographers. Not only does that make you a nice person and support other people, but it will also improve your own work as long as you don't make comparisons. So look at the work of other people, draw on it, let it wash over you and inspire you to do something exciting yourself. I've already mentioned a couple of photographers. Another one whose work I've been enjoying recently is Verity Milligan. I know her a little bit and she's just a great person as well. But like me, I think she's this quite emotional photographer where she wants to make that connection to her subject, and that shows in her work, which is just really beautiful and really moving, and I really recommend you check it out. She's also a great person. We were supposed to be running a tour together and she was supposed to be coming on this channel, but then the pandemic hit, so that went by the wayside, but we are working to correct that, and hopefully you will see her on this channel before too long. But Verity Milligan, I'll put a link to her down below as well, so make sure you check that out. Hopefully you can see some of her work here as well. Ultimately though, whether you're stuck in a rut or not, I think the key to a happy and successful life is to do things that provide us with meaning and fulfillment. If something is not right, then make a change. In life, this is much easier said than done, but with our photography, maybe it's a little bit easier. We can try new ideas, take a break from it like I have for the last few weeks. That will get the creative juices flowing. Tidy your camera bag, get organized, make some plans, and then get back out there and just enjoy what you're doing. And once you're relaxed and you ease back in to what you love, you will find that your work and the photographs you are making become all the more better for it. Anyway, if you like this content, please subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, please do go down below and check out the links there, including my Burke and Squarespace and all that good stuff down there. And I'll see you on another one again very, very soon. Bye.